Welcome to WIN with Richardson Richardson. What's important now? Success in business most often comes down to hard work, not by silver bullets and quick fixes. It's knowing where to focus that hard work that's key to winning. Join sales prospecting expert and 3-time seven-figure business founder Carrie Richardson and managing partner of R&R Consulting and former owner of Doberman Technologies Ian Richardson for radical honesty regarding strategic planning, accountability, and execution that will get you the systematic results you're working toward. Let's get into today's episode. Thought leader and your host, Ian Richardson.
Hello and welcome to WIN. I'm Ian Richardson of Richardson Richardson Consulting and your host, and today I'm joined by Josh Kotler. Josh has been in IT services since graduating from the University of Miami almost 30 years ago. He began selling software, network solutions to law firms where he learned the basics of running and growing a small business. 25, he knew that was enough to start a business of his own, and with 2 other partners, he built an IT services company before exiting in 1998 to do a second company. That company, Western Digitech, grew to nearly $7 million in revenue, had best-in-class profits, which he then sold to CompassMSP, a large national private equity-backed player, in 2019. He took the reins as CEO over at CompassMSP, focusing primarily on growth through M&A. 2 years, 4 substantial acquisitions later, Josh has left Compass, and he's now moved on to his current venture. That venture, Samson Street Partners, with best-in-class fellow MSP operator and good friend Dave Davenport. SSP is dedicated to helping MSP owners prepare their companies for the best possible exit, to get the best possible multiple, to make sure that they have improved operations, better maturity, and better profits so that they can sell for the best outcome for them, the seller. The MSP industry that's given a bunch to Josh, his determination and driving factor now for this last rodeo is to spend the rest of his career helping others enjoy similar success stories. Josh, welcome to WIN.
Thanks, Ian. Glad to be here.
Hey, glad to have you here. When we spoke on our prep call, we ran through the way that we handle WIN. We always talk about challenges, achievements, opportunities, and the challenge that you recognized and are currently helping solve is the issue around scale. If someone's a 1, 5, 10-man band or a $1 million, $2 million, $3 million organization, they just can't get the scale necessary to manage certain areas. One thing that you mentioned was compliance, CMMC, and other areas, or just when it comes down to it, having the resources to service people right.
Sure.
Talk to us about this. Walk us through that challenge.
Well, look, I think we're heading into a new period in sort of the MSP evolution. We're almost certainly facing a probably serious recession. There's incredible wage pressure and inflationary pressure that's on MSPs right now. Everyone is aware of the M&A activity that's being driven by private equity. And it's just created a new operating environment for MSPs. It's a little more challenging, right? I mean, you talked a little bit about compliance. Even if we took the other stuff and put it aside, just the addition of a new compliance requirement around security, around different verticals, is enough to really bury a small MSP. And look, I ran a pretty large MSP, Western Digitech in Miami and Tampa that I built. It was important as we grew to have resources, and by resources I mean cash, right? So we could make decisions and adapt to new market conditions. I sold to CompassMSP, and all of a sudden I was in a new world where we had a lot of resources.
Whole new buckets of cash.
Buckets of cash. And the nice thing about that situation is you can get ahead of these things, right? You don't have to be right about everything. The cash gives you the opportunity to be wrong a couple of times along the way toward getting things right. When you're a 2 or a 3, even a $4 million MSP, if you're making, I just got off a service leadership call a few minutes ago. Even if you're making sort of median EBITDA, you're
10
lucky.
to 15 points. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe a little less, right? You're lucky if you have a few $100,000 to go out and address all these challenges and deal with your team that needs to be paid more. It's Gary Pico, who's someone that I've worked with over the years and hold in really high regard, likes to say that EBITDA equals choices, right? If you're making money, you get a lot of choices. If you're not making money, if you don't have sufficient EBITDA, you don't get to make decisions. There are no choices. Everything is existential. So, that's what I think. That's the thinking that you and I picked up on when we started talking about scale. How can small MSPs get the scale they need to get the resources they need so that they can make some decisions, so that they can get ahead of things, so they can think strategically. And the first way is to sell, right?
Yep.
That's a form of getting scale. Not everyone wants to do that. One of the things I'm seeing a lot, and I know you're seeing this as well, we talked about this, is smaller MSPs in a given geography banding together. And they're not moving upstream to private equity or to a large consolidator, but they're getting scale by putting their resources together. I think we didn't talk about this. I think maybe the third way is to become vertically focused. Right? That's another form of scale. If you are dominant in the legal space or light manufacturing space, and you know those technologies, and you have a particular expertise, that's a form of scale, right? Because it gives you a massive advantage in the marketplace. So, yeah, look, it's incredibly important for MSP owners at that sort of subscale range we're talking about to start thinking about how they can get scale. Some are great salespeople, right? They can probably drive a little scale organically on their own. You need to get out and do it.
Yeah, one of the tactics we used in my old MSP, I grew up in a healthcare household.
Yep.
And so walking into a doctor's office and saying, hey, look, I understand that you can't buy anything in Q1. We can arrange things to hit after April once you start getting your insurance reimbursements. Suddenly you understand their business, you understand a challenge without them having to articulate it. Right. What are you doing around revenue cycle management? What are you doing around wearables? How are we making money without you having to be in the room? What's your billing strategy for your mid-levels? You can go on and on and on through these different questions that if you have deep vertical knowledge, the other guy who comes in is like, well, yeah, we can fix your printer too, and we'll charge $50 less. And it's like, I don't care about that because you're talking about fixing a commodity. And these guys are talking about making me more money. And that's a fundamentally different business relationship that someone who doesn't have that knowledge, doesn't have that wisdom and expertise can't compete in.
Look, I couldn't agree more. It's what customers want. They know that, a dozen companies can fix their printers or, deploy a cloud server. What they want to know is that you understand their business, that you, to use the old Bill Clinton line, that you feel their pain.
Oh, right? Yeah, 100%.
Make sure that you feel their pain. That way they can trust that you're going to get to that pain with your solution. They're not going to have to explain it to you. And if you think about that from a scale perspective, let's say that that a large national MSP is in your market. Let's say they don't know healthcare that well. They've got a bunch of reps. They're getting in the door. Their name, gets them in the door. But if you can compete with them with your expertise, if you can command a higher price, guess what? You're going to be able to start making better and better decisions with the gross margins that you pull from that deal. Whereas even the large national company there has to compete a little bit on price. So it's an advantage.
Whenever you're not talking about price and you're talking about value, you're winning.
That's right. Always those subtle ways, like you were getting at earlier, subtle ways of just communicating that you understand their business that are the most effective, right?
Yep.
Asking the one informed question that demonstrates years of expertise. It just is, it's massively beneficial.
You don't have to brag about the experience. A well-formed question's worth 1,000 words.
Yes.
We just talked about winning, and that kind of cues me up for the second part of our conversation, which is around achievement, around the recent win. And we talked about that right in your bio, that recently you just exited from Compass after completing 4 successful acquisitions. You stayed for 2 years. You quote unquote did your time. You paid your dues, and now you and them have parted, and it's a friendly parting and a planned departure. Talk to us about that half of it, because that's a piece where most people don't get to have insight. What is it like navigating a successful exit after you've exited your business?
Look, that's one of the things that I talk with my clients about in my new venture, right? It's not just sort of navigating to a number. It's helping them understand what's going to happen next. What's it like to sell your business? What's it like to hand the keys over to someone else and, let them drive? I can tell you from experience that it can be a little nerve-wracking. In my case, shortly after I handed the keys to them, they kind of handed them back to me. So I got to drive the whole company for a while, and that was fun. But it's a different world. And, for a lot of us MSP owners, our MSP was our baby, right? This is the thing we reared from infancy. And there's a big emotional component to letting go, if you will. For me, I couldn't have asked for a better, 2 years, 2.5 years between the time I engaged with Compass to sell through closing. And then for the subsequent 2 years, I learned things that I never would have had a chance to learn had I continued to operate my MSP. Compass is a success story. So the equity that I rolled into the deal, and we can go into more detail, but I rolled about 10% of the total deal consideration into Compass. That equity has grown substantially. So I've still benefited in sort of the upside of holding equity. I just had a chance to de-risk, do some things I'd never done before, learn from some really sharp people. And then, what can I say? The entrepreneurial bug hit, and I'm back out.
Time to do something new. Yeah. That's the reinvention cycle, and that's it's interesting. We had a webinar. Carrie and I did a webinar earlier where we were talking about that, and you started to hint at it around the concept of arbitrage. Yeah. Where that 10% of your equity, which, if we're doing simple math, hey, 10% of $100 is, $10. But if I roll that $100 into your company, and now I have 10% of a new company, or some percentage of a new company, and the new company is worth $1,000. Well, my $10 just became $100. Yeah, arbitrage. Overnight, I'm immediately more valuable. And as that company grows and scales, we're not talking a magnitude of just 1-to-1. Your $1 million MSP might get you a 2 to 3x multiple off of EBITDA. But if you're part of a $20 million MSP, you might be commanding upwards of 15 times EBITDA.
Yeah, look, one of the pieces of advice that, or things that I talk with my clients about is exactly that. And larger MSPs that are in that $7 million range, $10 million range, the deal consideration is so substantial that they can afford to roll more of the deal into the new company. But yeah, that's instant. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, that my business was valued at 7.5 times, right?
Yep.
Compass and other people, might have different opinions on this, but a large consolidator might be valued at 15 times. So that 10% piece that I took doubles.
Overnight.
Just doubles the moment I signed the deal. So I didn't understand that as an MSP operator. Didn't understand it. Had no clue. And one of the things that I think Samson Street Partners does for smaller MSPs or MSPs that are looking to exit So they give them that education ahead of time where you can actually use it to your advantage.
Well, and so there's just an interesting piece here around strategy, because if the MSP owner is sticking around, if you're staying as part of this larger organization and you are rolling equity forward, that's a strategic conversation with your team, with your clients, that, hey, I've got money riding on the success of this thing. I'm in it to win it because I own part of this new company. I'm still an owner. Yes, our name might not be, ABCIT. It's now XYZ company,
Right.
but I am an owner of XYZ. I'm one of many. And so that can, like, the amount of anxiety one could remove and release just by electing to do that pursuit of rolling forward equity, it becomes a very easy with clients to say, I'm not going anywhere. This is an equity thing. This is a money thing.
So one of the things that acquirers try to do in every deal is reduce risk, right? I mean, when you're dealing with multiple arbitrage that's, say 7.5 to 15 times or 6 to 12, whatever, however you want to look at it, that's a sure thing, unless the business suffers serious disruption. And one of those disruptions would be a mass exodus of customers or employees, right? So in the interest of reducing risk, acquirers often, not all of them, will allow you to roll that equity so you can go forward into the market and talk to your employees and give them that that angle, that perspective, right? That good news, if you want, right, is really the way to look at it. And retain customers, retain employees. That's why they want you to stay for 2 years. Some want you to stay longer. Some are okay with you leaving earlier. I mean, but there's always an element of post-close involvement, and it's all about reducing risk. It's not because the acquirer just loves you and wants your. It's not
about risk.
Not your winning personality.
Yeah, it's about risk. They want to make sure that the money's preserved for all. And so we already kind of stampeded into this conversation track, but when you and I were talking about the opportunity that you're pursuing, that there's an opportunity that isn't necessarily talked about a huge amount, that yes, multiples are at an all-time high in our industry. The market is hot, but people in private equity, people in large consolidators are professional buyers of businesses.
Yes.
And your average MSP owner may be their first business, maybe it's their second, rare few, it might be their third or fourth endeavor. But most of the sellers in today's market haven't sold a business.
That's
They've
right.
maybe sold a house or a car or things like that, but they might not even have done that yet. They might have never done a major asset transaction.
Sure.
And so there's a huge disparity between buyer and seller in acumen, skill set, tools of the trade. And you're aiming to level the playing field a bit.
Sure. Imagine sitting down, you don't know how to play chess, right? And across the table from you is a grandmaster. Some of these acquirers are grandmasters. I was not. I was whatever. I'm trying to figure it out myself as an acquirer. You wouldn't have a chance.
Oh yeah.
They're telling you how the pieces move, right? Meanwhile, they're grandmasters. So yeah, it's important for MSP owners that are becoming sellers to get an education and get some help, right? Really get some help, because you just don't want to go. You don't want to go into a gunfight with a knife. It's a bad idea.
Yep. You want to be able to service appropriately. You want to be able to have a position of strength at that table, right? Why would you walk into the game with one hand tied behind your back?
And most people do. Most people have both hands tied behind their back. And I know this as an acquirer. Look, it's there are a handful of relatively easy to accomplish things that can greatly level the playing field. The best one is to establish a market, right? If you can create a bidding war, then it's almost like getting another couple of grandmasters to help you make moves, right?
Yeah.
Indirectly, but it helps. Understanding your enterprise value, which is something that most MSP owners, that's a term they're maybe these days may be familiar with, but generally know nothing about. Understanding how every decision they make in their business impacts enterprise value is a new lens for MSP owners, and we try to give them that new lens.
So essentially advocate running that business as if you're selling it tomorrow, even if your timeline's multiple years out.
That's right. Best business to sell is a great business, right?
Yep.
Best business to keep is a great business.
That's right.
It does make you think, right? Why did we all spend so much time running these subpar businesses, right? I mean, I was lucky. Gary Pica and his crew, Peter Bryden and Bob Penland, they helped me tremendously, and my peers in the peer group helped me tremendously. But I think my experience was a little uncommon. I was really lucky to end up in the different groups I was in. And look, it's just imperative for MSP owners at all sizes, maybe even more important for the smallest ones, to go get that expertise, go get that help today so that they can start building something that's going to have real value when it's time for them to exit.
Start asking questions early, and that's how we'll leave it. This has been another episode of WIN, What's Important Now. I'm Ian Richardson, one of Richardson Richardson Consulting. Josh, why don't you throw out what's a good website for people to go to visit if they want to learn more about what you and SSP are doing?
Well, look, I think that the best thing for people to do is just contact me directly, and the email address there is jkotler@SamsonStreetPartners.com. So it's JKOTLER and it's Samson, not Samson, StreetPartners.com.
Yeah. SANSOM for those of you listening. And Richardson Richardson is R&R.consulting. You can view previous episodes of WIN, subscribe to the podcast, check out our YouTube channel or our very routinely updated blog. I'm Ian Richardson, and until next time, take it easy.
Thanks a lot, Ian.
Thank you, Josh.
You've been listening to WIN with Richardson Richardson. What's important now? We're so glad you've joined us and know you're one step closer to winning big in your business too. We'd love to connect with you outside of the show. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to connect@rnr.consulting. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you'll easily know when new episodes are available. Until next time, you can win, and we're here to help.